breakthrough moment that we heard today that surprised any reporters or officials, but this is progress on an agreement that's been dead in the water for many months and which Russia pulled out of back in July. And that was commented on by Vladimir Putin, who very much reiterated Russia's position, saying that Moscow was forced to abandon this agreement because other parties in the deal hadn't held up their side of the bargain, hadn't lifted sanctions on certain Russian companies, and had failed to reconnect Russian banks, agricultural banks, to the SWIFT payment system. But certainly there is cause for optimism because President Erdogan said a deal could be reached, and especially with the backing of the UN, which has also come with certain proposals to Moscow and to Turkey as well. We don't know the full details of the proposals yet, but we understand that it could well mean meeting some of those Russian demands for the grain deal. There's certainly cause for optimism, and especially that was heard from President Erdogan in a separate conversation with reporters when he said that Ukraine may have to soften its position when it comes to coming to some sort of compromise with Russia on this grain deal, aside perhaps from Turkey, from the Turkish president, that they are willing to mediate this deal and are willing to perhaps push Kiev a little bit, push Kiev to dropping some of their hardline stance. That's at least how Moscow sees it, to come to some sort of a revival of this grain deal.
And Daniel, Putin did talk about one specific idea today, which is free grain, presumably going from Russia to 6 different African countries. What more do we know about that idea?
Well, that idea has been floated for quite some time now by Moscow. Russia's always been very adamant that it's going to do its best to maintain grain shipments, fertilizer shipments, and especially maintain them to developing and poorer countries. In fact, Sergei Lavrov, Russian foreign minister, just days ago said that this proposal was in the works, that 6 African countries, Burkina Faso, Central African Republic, Eritrea, Mali, Somalia, and Zimbabwe, will get 50,000 tons of grain each for free, with Russia also taking on the costs of bringing it there. So this is especially important, of course, for Moscow, which sees Russia as an increasingly important strategic region, as of course it is for other countries as well. And when you look at that in conjunction with, for example, the African-Russian summit, which took place in St. Petersburg earlier this summer, the diplomatic tour that Sergei Lavrov, Russian foreign minister, has been on also some months ago, this is very important for the African continent, which of course has been suffering a food crisis, major increases in living costs in food. So certainly the fact that Vladimir Putin says this is now taking off, this project, and Turkey would be a part of it. This grain would be shipped, according to Moscow, to Turkey. It will be processed there and then moved on. That will mean a lot for the African continent, though, of course, Vladimir Putin also said in that conference that any deal involving simply Russia, Turkey, and Qatar would not be an alternative to the original grain deal. So any shipments of grain to Africa, free of charge, as the Kremlin says, would simply be on top of a grain deal revival, which Putin said could happen very soon.